fantastic.
Okay. So yeah, I can go ahead and kick things off and ask you all to introduce yourselves. So I am Audrey Flood. I am a development manager at the Tiffin-Seneca Economic Partnership. We are doing everything we can in partnership with the Chamber right now to help businesses. And one of the ways we're doing that is through a series of webinars just like this one on various different topics to provide support and information to our local businesses. So today's topic is financial resources and our local banks. So we have some great panelists here from different local banks that are excited to share with you. At the end, I'll give you some other upcoming webinars to make sure you look out for. But right now, I'm going to have each panelist go ahead and introduce themselves and their institution. David, would you start us off?
Sure. My name is David Zach, and I'm the president and CEO of the Tiffin-Seneca Economic Partnership. For those of you who don't know, we are a 501c3 economic and community development organization that works on behalf of businesses, and we have a contract with the city of Tiffin and Seneca County to try to support the business community, and that's what we're doing. So that's why I'm here. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chip.
Thanks, David. Chip VanDette here. I'm with Croghan Colonial Bank. As many of you know, we're headquartered in Fremont, but we have 2 branches in Tiffin. I'm the senior lender in the commercial banking department, so work with small and medium-sized businesses to help them with their financial needs.
Thanks, Chip. Derek, do you want to go next?
Sure. I am Derek Sidor. I'm the president and CEO of Your Legacy Federal Credit Union. Our headquarters is here in Tiffin, and we have been around since 1952.
Great, thank you. Okay, Dean, you're up next.
Yeah, I'm Dean Keller, president of the First National Bank of Sycamore. We're headquartered in Sycamore, but we have an office in Tiffin, and we do a lot of small business lending, and we're happy to be here today with you.
Great, thanks, Dean. Okay, and Brody, you're up last.
Yeah, my name is Brody Fultz. I am a commercial loan officer here in Tiffin, Ohio, and we have we've been an SBA lender for quite a few years here, and yeah, it's been an interesting process navigating the SBA payroll protection program, but we've been doing pretty well for customers here, so I'm happy to share some expertise.
Awesome. And Brody is with Sutton Bank. Okay, so thank you all for that introduction. I'm going to have you each go around if you want to open with kind of a general message to our businesses, anything that you think is helpful or a tip for businesses. So let's see, we can start with David. I'll save you for last on this one. Let's see, Chip, would you like to open with any kind of helpful tips or general message to our businesses?
Sure, thank you. Obviously it's a unique time in this economic, days that we're in. Most businesses did not prepare for this and, have never seen anything like this. So the only recommendation I have is right now is the time to really kind of focus more on your financial reporting and your planning and things like that, more so than less, and even get more granular, because one of the things that's going to be really important to get through, this impacted period is being able to project your cash flow shortfalls to know what you need to do to be able to get through this. And so by knowing what that cash flow shortfall is going to look like and projecting it out over the next few weeks and even months, then you can go back to your vendors and maybe talk about extended payment terms, or go back to your bank and look for potential payment deferrals. It's going to be important too on the back end. If you were fortunate to get any of the PPP loans, the forgiveness period of that's going to be, we're going to find out what that looks like. We don't know yet exactly, but it's going to be pretty granular. They're going to ask you to calculate kind of certain things, payroll, interest payments, things like that over the last 8 weeks from when you got your loan. And most small businesses just aren't used to reporting on an 8-week period that might be off cycle in the middle of the month to another middle of the month. So generally, I guess my advice would be to buckle down and do a little bit more detailed financial reporting during this time than maybe you would have in the past.
Great, thanks, Chip. Let's see, Brody, would you like to take this one next?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of build off what Chip was saying, yes, the having a plan now to reopen, or a general plan to reopen this economy, is, I think, came at a critical time, because a lot of our customer base that we were talking to, it's starting to get, uncertainty on when these businesses can open back up, and that was kind of the biggest. The conversation started to turn a little bit with customers as far as negativity goes. So to kind of have a plan to reopen is, I think, a breath of fresh air, obviously in a safe manner, of course. But the big thing is the resources out there, and the SBA has two big resources. One being the Payroll Protection Program, that I think since the CARES Act passed, it feels like we've been building the plane as we're flying it, as far as guidance has came from the SBA. So that's always been fun to try and relay to customers the ever-changing programs and eligibility requirements, stuff of that nature. But that's the Payroll Protection Program and the EIDL loans that the SBA offers, which are direct loans through the SBA. They can potentially help a small business weather the storm, per se, and provide much needed working capital and payroll funds to keep people employed and get a small business through this rut here. So just something we've been trying to educate ourselves on in the community and spread it along to all our customers here in Tiffin-Seneca County and all the branches across the north central Ohio. So.
Thank you, Brody. Okay, Derek, would you like to go next?
Sure. Kind of try to add a little bit, from everything that was just added there. But I do know that there's a definite real need in Ohio, especially, with all the payroll protection. I actually read something yesterday that, those funds actually got eaten up pretty quick, and they're trying to get more of those funds available. My understanding is, they're trying to get maybe as much as an additional $250 billion into those programs, which will be great. And, I also, Ohio, I know there is a need in Ohio. One of the articles I read said that I think we were the fifth state that actually used it, and that there was about 38,000 loans that were generated through that program, which is great. And I'm hoping some of those went to, our businesses in Seneca County. So I'm hopeful that, that avenue will open back up, because I know there's a huge need for that. But I would also, echo, as all organizations are doing, looking at, your financials, seeing like long-term, getting over the next several months. But, there are, as was relayed, some great programs that the SBA actually has out there. And I'm just hopeful that, more people in Seneca County and more Ohioans will be able to tap into those resources. And hopefully there's more resources available in the near future.
Yes, thank you, Derek. Okay, as we go to our last two that are going to speak on this, I wanted to remind all of our panelists, go ahead and type your questions in the chat box or the question box so we can start to get those answered, or use the raise your hand function and we can call on you so you can speak your question as well. Okay, let's see, Dean, you are up.
Yes, Derek mentioned that the program had ran out of money yesterday, and they're not. We're not able to submit applications. But I would encourage anybody that hasn't already submitted an application to your bank to go ahead and do that. We're collecting those. We're hopeful that they will refund the program and get it back up and running, and you'll just be a little bit further ahead. Also, if you know of any nonprofits that are eligible to apply for this, and we've had a number of those, they're impacted by this as well, and we encourage them to apply for this. And also call your U.S. congressman and your U.S. senators on this, and make sure that you're being heard. That we need this, we need it now, and give them a sense of urgency on this, because it is urgent that we get this money out to these businesses.
Yes, thank you, Dean. That's a really important note for our businesses to hear, that you are still taking applications, even though it looks like there aren't funds at the moment. But we are hopeful there's going to be more. So thank you for that clarification for sure. And another great point to have our businesses reaching out to our elected officials. Maybe that's something TSEP can share with our businesses, the info for them to be reaching out to those individuals. So thank you for that. All right, David, what would you like to share with our businesses on this topic?
Sure. So the first thing I want to mention is that, and I apologize for not doing this at the front end, we are doing this in partnership with the Greater Seneca Chamber of Commerce. And I know Deb Martirana is on the line. Sometimes the technology works for her to make some comments, sometimes it doesn't. I'm going to see if we can get it to work. Deb, are you there? Again, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Deb, are you there? Just going to give you one more chance, and then I'll speak a little bit on behalf of her if she can't connect. Okay, so Deb is the interim executive director for the chamber. They've been putting out alerts, trying to let people know, and have been a great partner with us in trying to get information out to the business community. So really appreciate Deb and everybody there. The next thing I would say is that we ourselves, I like what Dean was saying about nonprofits. We ourselves were approved on Wednesday night for our Paycheck Protection Loan Program because we've had money, big chunk cut from the county. We expect from the city as well. So we, as a small 4-employee organization, I was just telling the team that we always help businesses and try to connect them with resources. Going through the process to actually take advantage of some of these is different for us. So I have a lot of sympathy. So there are a lot of people. I just want to make sure that everybody's on the line. You're not alone. These banks are doing wonderful things to get you access to that capital. And the way that the federal SBA programs are set up is work with the bank, either your existing bank, but I know we have banks that will work if you don't have a prior relationship. They may need a little bit more information, but don't be afraid to reach out to any of the folks on the line today or multiple people to see what's available and what's possible. So in addition to that, I would say that, we have a website. We have a web page on our website. We have a forwarding address. If you go to tsepcoronavirus.com, that'll get you to our more than 100 resources. Having it completely up to date and accurate is like, I wish I had a little Tom Cruise music, Mission Impossible, because it changes by the day. But there's more than 100 resources up there. I'm probably going to be updating a bunch on the weekend. We also, I think important, we have a texting service. So if you text the word coronavirus to 424242, that's 424242, we'll let you know with alerts as we become aware of them. For example, we have a webinar series. You're on it right now. What are all the other webinars? We put that out there as well. So as new resources, new webinars, whether they're from us or other people, we'll put it out there. And we just feel very grateful that we have a lot of fantastic partners. The Cleveland office of the SBA has been really doing a great job with this huge amount of stuff that they have to do and administer. The local banks, I know just from personal experience, are working late hours to try to get these, all the applications through. And you heard Dean, and I know he represents the sentiment of everybody. Give us your application, give us your needs. We'll try to meet those needs. So the two big resources, our webpage, our text service, and also don't be afraid to reach out to the chamber as well as they're getting information out to the folks.
Awesome.
Let me tag on one comment. One of the things that you'll see on the pages, there are a number of kind of unconditional funky things that are out there for businesses and some grant programs, and I'm not going to list them all, but one I'll be uploading, there's a restaurant grant that's available. So there are a number of grants. You might want to look through that. But the biggest grant is basically the forgivable loan through the Paycheck Protection Loan Program. And if you're doing an economic injury disaster loan, the advance that comes through that. So I'm a big proponent of the SBA and working with the banks to get those done.
Great, thank you, David. Yes, and our other community banks as well, some that weren't able to participate. Old Fort wanted everyone to know that they also are actively engaged in the PPP program right now as well. And that's part of the reason why they were unable to participate. So yeah, please reach out to our local banks. Okay, again, do we have any questions from the audience? Either raise your hand or type in the question box at this time. Otherwise, David and I can definitely share some questions that we've been hearing from businesses. Okay, doesn't look like we have any at the moment. So let's see, David, do you want me to start off with some questions, or do you want to start with some things we've been getting asked by businesses?
Go ahead, Audrey, that'd be great. Kick it off.
Okay, yeah. So there might not be a great answer to this, but what advice would our local banks have to offer to people as far as when they're trying to compare, being closed with their employees on unemployment versus applying for one of these loans? They often ask, it seems that there's a lot of risk involved. Will we receive these loans? That kind of thing. So what can you share as far as have you actually been able to tell us that businesses have gotten this money after they've applied? Have you seen those success stories to encourage our businesses, if they have not taken advantage of this resource yet, should they, in your opinion? So let's see, I guess, Chip, do you want to start on this one?
Sure, absolutely. So I would absolutely recommend anybody who has not taken advantage of it through that first funding, that when, I say when and not if, because I feel pretty confident that additional funds will be made available, to absolutely take advantage of it. This is an unprecedented program. I read somewhere the other day that the SBA just did 14 years worth of loans in 14 days. So, I mean, we've never seen anything like this. And the terms are really fantastic. So again, I think 75% of it has to go towards payroll. So I think the real crux of this was trying to keep people employed and on payroll, and small businesses and businesses to be able to continue to pay their employees. So, as long as you can validate that over that 8-week period, that amount is forgiven. So there's very low risk in terms of keeping your payroll going. There are a few other things like interest expense on mortgages, lease and rent, utilities, a few of the things that are eligible to be forgiven as well. Obviously, that falls into that 25% category of the overall loan amount. But at the end of the day, even if you had to use this money for things that do not qualify for forgiveness from the SBA, you're talking about a 1% loan that is deferred for 6 months worth of payments. I mean, that's, where else in the world are you going to get a 1% loan? So there's not a lot of disadvantage to this loan. So I would highly recommend it.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Chip. Let's see, any of our other panelists want to offer anything on that? Derek, did you have anything to add to that topic?
I think Chip covered that really well. That was a good overall, but I would agree with Chip that, it is definitely something that I think is going to be a good program for a lot of businesses.
Okay. Yeah, let's see, Dean or Brody, do either of you have anything to offer on this one that wasn't covered so far?
No, I think that Chip and Derek, I mean, yeah, they covered it pretty well. It's a good overview of the program and everything. So
great, thank you.
I have heard from people that said, they're not sure when they're going to bring back their employees. Go ahead and apply for it. This isn't going to be like you turn on a light switch and bring everybody back on day one necessarily. So if you've got people laid off, go ahead and apply for it. And you have until June 30th to bring them up on your payroll to get forgiveness on it. And like Chip was saying, even if the whole loan isn't forgiven, it's still a 1% loan.
So this is David. So a couple things in going through this process myself that I want to kind of throw out there for you all to respond to. One is I thought the application process was extremely easy. It was a one-pager. Basically, you got to figure out what your payroll was all of last year. You then figure out your average monthly payroll, and then you times 2.5. So times 2.5, that's the loan amount. The questions I wanted to ask you all, two questions. One is, Chip talked about 75% has to be for payroll and also for mortgage interest. and also for utilities or lease if you're leasing. There's an other category. What other kinds of things may, I don't know the answer to this. So so that's one question, is there anything else that potentially could get forgiven? And then the next question is everybody, we've been told to ask the banks what you need as far as documentation so that you can get the stuff forgiven. So if you could comment on the other category, which is on the application, as well as what each of you requires as far as documentation, because each bank gets to do that kind of on their own, that would be great.
Let's see, Dean, you've gone last. Do you want to go first on this one?
Oh, thanks a lot, Audrey. No, excuse me. As far as the documentation on the back end to prove it for the payroll, David said 75% of your loan amount has to go for payroll. So provide payroll journals. I know a lot of small businesses use like QuickBooks. You can run reports off, or if you process through ADP, something like that. In terms of your utilities, utility bills, and utilities also include cell phone, internet subscription, any type of communications, as well as your electric, gas, sewer, water. And David, I know there's a category called other, but I have just not seen anything that fits into the other category. But again, those are the main things. There's also, and perhaps some of the other banks could clarify this, your mortgage interest is also a legitimate expense. And also they're saying loans or interest on other loans other than mortgage loans. But you don't use that in the forgiveness calculation. So there's some inconsistencies in this. So I would add a caveat to everything that the guidance that's out there. It's subject to change and interpretation as we go along here. But I know community banks are very flexible with our customers, and we'll try to allow everything that we can that's legal, but we're trying to work through this too.
Thanks, Dean. Yeah, how about Brody? What does Sutton consider in the other category, and what kind of documentation do you require?
Yeah, to kind of build off what Dean said, as far as other goes, we haven't ran across anything that would be considered eligible. And he also hit the big caveat there. This whole thing has been kind of changing and ever evolving as we go. Basically, on the forgiveness section of the SBA interim final ruling guidance that I believe all banks have been using as kind of a blueprint here, the forgiveness portion is a broad overview, and then a little in italic font, more information to come. So I think a lot of the specifics, as far as I've had customers reach out and say, is hazard pay something that we can do for our employees? Can we give them bonuses? There's stuff like that. There's a cap on employees that make over $100,000 in salary. You have to cap them at $100,000. So, there's a lot of different things, a lot of moving parts to the forgiveness. And, as we've started to fund these loans here, I've gotten a lot of questions on some of those specific things that we don't have in writing from SBA, or we don't have clear guidance from them. They just say, 75% for payroll, 25% for utilities, and mortgage interest debt. Debt incurred before February 15th of 2020, that interest can be included, absolutely. Lease and rent. It's difficult to try to explain to customers one thing and then it changes the next day. So that is one thing I want to throw out there, customers, is please be patient with your bankers, because one day they're reading one thing and then the SBA comes out with slight changes to that. So but yeah, in a nutshell, if you're using it for payroll and those other expenses that are eligible, there's a very good and probable chance that the entirety of your loan, if not a great majority of your loan, is going to be forgiven.
Okay, thanks, Brody. That was great. Derek, would you like to go next?
Yeah, what we actually did at the credit union, we've had a partnership for several years. We wanted to have something that we could offer to our members, and this program came up pretty quick. We are affiliated with a company called New Tech out of New York. They're the ones that are handling these requests on our members' behalf as they have come in. And I have not heard anything either on the other category, but that's how we were able to actually get into it, because we wanted to be able to assist our members because we knew this was going to be a great need, and we've done that through our partnership.
Great, thank you. And Kip, what would you like to add?
I think the other gentleman, covered the topic very well. It's funny. I think Derek said it early on. Not Derek, but Brody said it early on. We're building the plane while we're in mid-flight. It's a saying we've been using a lot too throughout this process, and it's been interesting to see how things change and how more guidance comes out over time while we're again mid-flight thing. So we fully expect more guidance to come out from the SBA now that we're funding these loans. This 8-week time frame has started, for many of our borrowers who have already been funded. So we do expect that, the SBA spent a lot of time kind of honing the upfront process of it early on. And now that we're in that 8-week period and it's starting for many of them, we expect a lot more guidance to come out. And in terms of the other category, I would only be speculating, but it's under the purpose of the loan category in the application. So I think they're just asking what you're going to use it for. Again, you can use this money for anything you want to help your business stay afloat, but only certain categories of it qualify for forgiveness. So again, payroll, lease, rent, mortgage interest, and utilities. And then that other was probably just, I'm guessing they're just asking what you made and your intentions may be for it, but other is probably not forgivable.
Great, okay. Thank you all. That was a really great question and some good feedback on that. A question that has come up from some businesses I know at our office at TSEP is what flexibility or options might be out there for even if a business is not taking advantage of these programs. Is there flexibility on maybe loan payments that they already have, or paying on their building, or other things like that, with or without these programs? What kind of options can banks offer, if anything, to help with other loan payment sort of problems? Let's see. How about Brody? Would you like to go first on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So when the whole shutdown and everything started, the big question from us was, is the FDIC going to come out with a statement that can give us some guidance on when we're looking at commercial customers and consumer customers, if we can do things to help them, are the regulators going to look at it negatively? And they did come out with a statement. So at Sutton Bank, we have, we've been working with customers as far as providing interest-only payments or payment deferrals. It's kind of a case-by-case basis, depending on their business or what's going on. But yeah, I'm sure every banker on this call is going to say that, when we talk to our customers, we're going to try to do the best that we can to help them through this time, because this is, a once in a lifetime event. You can't plan for something like this. So I think we're all pretty considerate of our customers, and we'll try to work with them as much as possible to make sure that anything involving the shutdown that's negatively impacting their business, obviously we're going to take that into consideration when we're looking at payment options, stuff of that nature.
Thanks, Brody. Okay, Chip, what is Croghan commenting on this type of problem businesses might be having?
Yeah, I think Brody did sum it up really well. We're here to help our businesses. We understand that this is an impact that no one was prepared for, and is, once, to Brody's point, once in a lifetime kind of event. So we are working with our businesses also on a case-by-case basis. I would tell you that primarily we're doing a lot of 3-month payment deferrals, or in some cases 6 months interest only. It kind of depends on what's going to help our individual businesses better, what they're projecting their cash flow impact to look like over the next 3 to 6 months, and going from there. But we are working with any one of them that need help. We're not looking to be real selective on that. We're really looking at whatever is going to help that individual business most get through this.
Okay, thanks, Chip. Let's see, how about Dean? Would you like to go next?
Really the same thing. Anybody that really has asked us, we've accommodated them in terms of payment deferrals, really. And another thing about this is a very stressful period. A lot of our customers just want to talk.
Yeah.
They just want to hear that you will work for them, even if they're able to service their loans right now. The future's uncertain for them. So give us a call. We'll work with you. It's all in our self-interest that they survive this and are able to preserve their cash flow. And so it's better to ask for it now rather than when it's too late. And I think Chip talked earlier, you have to try to look ahead and plan ahead for the future. And I think that this is part of it. So banks have cash. So we don't need those payments right now, and you might. So we're more than likely to grant your request as long as it's a reasonable request.
Okay, thanks, Dean. Derek, what would you like to add on this point?
As a credit union, we're actually examined by the National Credit Union Administration, but the interagency guidelines that came out were the same as the FDIC. They all kind of issued a joint statement on that, and we're under the same. We're working with our members. The biggest thing is, if a member has a need or they're having a problem with payment, just to let us know. Knowing is the key, kind of like talking to the members, and we're here to assist our members. And as far as businesses, if they're looking for, additional ways to get loans for their business above and beyond the payroll protection, with our partnership with NewTek, they do loans from as small as $1,000 up to $15 million. So there's lots of options available, and we're here to help. We want to help as much as we can.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I think I got through each panelist there on that point. So David, would you like to make any comments on this point before we move on to the next question?
No, I think the panelists did a fantastic job. So I'd say go on to the next question.
Okay. Yeah, one other question that we've been getting from businesses is if they may be looking to do other projects that are not related to COVID, whether or not they've, again, taken advantage of these programs. Are banks still able to take on a loan for something unrelated or some kind of different project separate from this? Is this a good time for them to get into that, or should they kind of hold off for now and not take out an unrelated to COVID loan at this time? Derek, would you like to start us off for this?
Sure. I know that there's a lot of, there are some businesses that are going and still, taking on additional projects that they might have had in progress or are, that they wanted to do that they hadn't broke ground on yet. But my understanding through our partnership is yes, those loans are still being made. Depending on what is of the organization. So it's my understanding that there is still projects that are moving forward, and I have not gotten anything from our partners at NewTek saying that they're not accepting any of those kinds of requests. So it's my understanding that there is some movement still in that space.
Okay, thank you, Derek. And we will go to Dean next.
Yeah, and there are, some businesses that are relatively unaffected by this. So if they're looking to do a project, now might be an advantageous time to take on a new project, but it really depends on the, their cash flow and their expected future cash flow. So, yeah, and I mean, in some parts, business, it's business as usual.
Great, thank you. Okay, Brody, on to you.
Yeah, definitely a case-by-case basis. Like Derek and Dean have said, some businesses are unaffected, and we have those businesses as well that they're looking to do projects during this time. The one we have seen a lot of the pending requests and new loan requests at this point. A lot of them have dried up. There's just so much uncertainty out there that, a lot of businesses, even if they are unaffected, they don't know long term what the plan is. And that's why, kind of happy to see there is a plan to reopen the economy. I think that's crucial, just to kind of have a very loose at this point timeline for customers. That way they can start thinking about, going back to maybe not normal, but as close to normal as we can get after all of this. So it's it's a case by case basis. We look and see how your cash flow is doing, how your business has been affected, the impact of how your business is affected. But the key is communication with the customer. So.
Great, thank you. Chip, what would you like to add on this topic?
Yeah, no, very similar to the rest of the panelists. There certainly are businesses who, are going as business as usual or had, projects in the plans that this has not affected. Certainly from a credit administration standpoint, we are now looking at things through a slightly different lens in terms of, is this a short-term disruption? Is this a longer-term disruption? And we're working directly with, the businesses we work with to understand how that's going to affect them in the future. But we certainly are lending more money for un-COVID related projects. In fact, we had one of our most robust loan committees just last week that we've had in months. So certainly project forward, but obviously the majority of the focus these days are kind of taking care of the here and now, whether that's through payment deferrals or whether that's through the various SBA programs going on.
Okay, yeah, thanks to each of our banks. And David, did you have anything to add on businesses taking on a new project or something that would require additional capital during this time?
I would just say that if their businesses are looking to do that, make sure you talk to us as well, because we would love to partner on other types of incentive or assistance that may be, if companies are looking for any kind of growth projects, any kind of job creation or investment. There's more than 200 programs out there that we work with on a frequent or infrequent basis. So give us a call.
Yeah, great point, David. Okay, we have a question from one of our participants that I think is a great question. Matt would like to know, how do the deferred payments affect your credit? I think this is a great question for us to address. So let's see, how about Dean? Would you like to go first on this one?
It would not affect their credit, deferred payment. And in fact, and I think some of the other panelists have said this, it's better to address this now rather than to wait till you're past due. So if you wait till you're past due, that will affect your credit. And we're talking about payment deferrals on the consumer as well as on the commercial side. So a lot of us don't report business credit on a personal credit basis, but work with your lender. Be in contact with them. If you have concerns, call them. If you don't think you're going to be able to make an upcoming payment, call them before the payment's due if you can. And the sooner you can do that, the better it is for you and for the bank as well. So it's a partnership.
Yes, thank you, Dean. And to kind of expand on this question a little bit, really any advice that you have for businesses on things that they could do that would be good or bad to affect, their credit or their credit as an individual that's connected to the business, during this time, what can they do we're all trying to survive kind of right now, but looking down the line to make sure that they don't do anything that's detrimental to their future banking and everything. Any advice on that would be great. So Chip, would you like to go next?
Sure. I think Dean very well. I mean, these deferral programs are things the banks are offering. We, working in conjunction with our borrowers as their needs arrive, both commercially and on a consumer basis as well. So there is no, direct penalty to your credit associated with this deferral. And to the second part of your question, I think Dean addressed that very well as well in terms of better to get out in front of it and understand that, there may be a cash flow in the future for you. And if so, work with your bank, work with your other creditors to come up with an alternative plan rather than just fall behind, because the lack of communication, loan operations continue to go on as normal. So if a payment doesn't come in and have prearranged deferral or assistance, then it likely would get reported to your that. So that's where active management of your own financial picture and working in conjunction with your creditors and your local banks and things like that is very key.
Great, thanks, Chip. Let's see, Derek, anything to add on this topic of credit or how businesses can best be preparing for long term?
It's just it's all about communication. I know that's been echoed by the other panelists, but I would seriously, if someone's having a problem, look at every single one of your bills, where those are from, contact them and let them know up front. It's just so critical, because the sooner that we know that someone has an issue, the sooner we can start working on a solution. And it's so much better to get out in front of that until something gets, until you're getting a call to be like, hey, what's going on? Being proactive in this situation is the best advice I could give anybody. Just communicate. It's key.
Great. Yes. Good advice. Okay. We did, who am I missing here? Did we have Brody go on this topic yet?
No, but yeah, that, yes, the big question I get from commercial customers is this going to affect my credit? No, a lot of banks, if not a majority of banks, do not report commercial credit on a consumer credit report. And, the big thing is calling and making sure, whoever you have your loans with, whoever you have your utility payments with, just give them a call and ask up front. I can't speak for everyone, but, I think a lot of companies, a lot of utility companies, a lot of like Capital One, the larger consumer finance, I think they're kind of looking at this as a crazy event, a once in a lifetime event, and there's a lot of understanding from community banks, large banks, financing entities, stuff like that. So it can never hurt to ask.
Great, thank you. Okay, did I miss anyone on that topic who'd like to say more? Okay. So as we kind of move into wrapping up here towards 11, I would like to give each panelist time to do both their contact information for anyone who'd like to reach out and talk more about this, as well as any kind of closing thoughts they might have for businesses. But during the meantime, reminder that we would have a time for a few more questions if you want to type those in the question box or in the chat or raise your hand. So let's see. So please go ahead and give, if a business wants to reach out on something COVID related or on a regular project, who's the best person at your institution to contact? And what advice would you give to businesses as we hopefully are moving toward the end of this period and perhaps going to open back up, or things might go back to normal? What advice would you have as kind of a closing thought for our businesses? Dean, would you like to go first on this one?
As far as who to contact, either myself or Jerry Weininger at the bank. I just saw this come across on my phone. SBA just sent out an announcement that they did 14 years worth of loans in 14 days. And so, as we had these glitches come up and everything, you can kind of understand the volume of loans that were ran through the system on this. So I think they really, I know there was a lot of confusion, but it's really amazing that they got the program up and running in such a short period of time. And it was rocky at the start, but they did get $350 billion out to small businesses around the country in a very short time. So, but no, we're all in this together. So, we're here to work with our customers, and we will do that. And that's the message I think that's important that we've kind of stressed here today.
Great, thanks, Dean. All right, Derek?
Yeah, as far as if there is a a business that needs any kind of, they're looking for a loan, the best contact for that is our loan manager, Samantha Rumschlag. And our general number to call in is just 419-448-0191. If there's general questions, COVID questions, those could be directed at myself. And if we have members that have problems or are going to be late on, loans, we do have a financial recovery specialist. Her name is Nancy Courtney, and she's available to work with every one of our members that have that concern. And just to echo everything else being said, every institution that's on this call, we care deeply about Seneca County, our members, and our customers, and it's, we literally are all in this together. And I think at the end of it, we'll all come out of it and just keep positive spirits, and things will work out.
Great, thank you, Derek. Okay, moving to Brody.
Yes, I'm here in the Tiffin branch of Sutton Bank. My name is Brody Fultz. I am a commercial lender. If you want to reach out, our number is 419-448-9000, and be more than happy to talk to you or get you in touch with whoever you need to talk to. As far as the COVID, we all have kind of educated ourselves here at the branch to understand the programs that are out there, what we as a bank can do to help. But just give us a call. We'd be more than happy to talk to you about the programs. And in closing, I would emphasize that please be patient with your bankers, your lenders. I know here at the branch we've processed probably 90 PPP applications just here in Tiffin in a couple weeks, and it's I know my email inbox has been slammed, my voicemails have been slammed. I try to get back. I know there might be a couple people that have fallen through the cracks, but just have a little understanding. I know it's a crisis, it's uncertain times, but just be patient with us, and we'll try to help you as much as we can.
Thanks, Brody. Chip?
Great, thanks. In terms of working with Croghan Colonial Bank, Valerie Bum is our local commercial lender. She works in the downtown office in Tiffin. Her number is 419-448-1370. Gwen, who's at the branch as well, can help on the consumer side, Valerie on the commercial side. I'm on the commercial team as well. Welcome to reach out to me. My cell is 216-952-9996. And then in terms of, the last bit of guidance to the businesses out there as they, head into these next few weeks and months is, I'll really echo a lot of what Brody just said in terms of, patience and understanding, proactive communication. As you work with your bankers, your vendors, your customers, every one of us are impacted in a different way, and we're all feeling the stress of this. Bankers from the standpoint of just the sheer volume of what we've had to do over the last few weeks. I know Croghan Colonial Bank, we did 386 PPP apps for $62 million, and the vast majority of those were under $50,000 loans. It's just a lot of volume trying to get through. So patience and understanding there. Your vendors are feeling the same kind of cash flow crunches that you are, your customers in the same way. So open communications, understanding, and really taking into consideration just the human aspect of this. We're all feeling this in different ways, and we all gotta come together as people and find a way to continue to do business, but understand how this is affecting each of us on a personal level.
Thank you, Chip. David, do you want to give your closing thoughts and contact info, and then I'll wrap us up?
Sure. Closing thoughts. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me on my cell at 419-912-1150. I know there are a number of businesses. I liked what I heard from Brody, and I think I heard it from Chip. And there's a lot of banks that are kind of overwhelmed, and there's some frustration from some of the business folks in the business community about responsiveness. But I think I know we had it with our banker. It's rough right now, right? It's unprecedented. The banks aren't really making any money off these loans. It's really a service just to try to help the customers. I think all of you have indicated you're open to talking to anyone that may be looking or have a relationship with, looking or doesn't have a relationship with a bank. So again, tsepcoronavirus.com. The only last question I had, I just wanted to make sure that everybody out there understands what the definition of a small business for the SBA is, so that they know whether they qualify. Because we had someone saying, hey, I heard about this company that has $42 million in profit and they're publicly traded, and are they eligible for this program too? So what's the deal on, so sorry to Audrey to throw that question out there, but I don't want to leave without people understanding what the basic definition of SBA is in terms of being able to qualify for these loans.
Yeah,
So
Chip,
let me,
thoughts on that one?
Sure. In terms of the PPP loans, the Paycheck Protection Program, there really wasn't a size of business in terms of revenue or profitability or anything like that set in terms of kind of guidelines. It was really any business with 500 employees or less. So it was an employee kind of.
okay.
So that was the guidance.
Okay.
For general SBA loans. There are some other guidelines. Won't go into those now but you know, most businesses that we dealt with some very large businesses, but we dealt with a lot of, you know, small sole proprietor, self-employed individuals as well. And so it was really an loan program.
Okay.
Thanks. Just want to make sure we got that out there.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. That's all I have,
seems,
Audrey.
okay, great. Yeah, I don't think that seems like a pretty cut and dry answer, but Dean, Derek, or Brody, if there's anything you needed to add on that qualification as a small business. Okay, great. All right, well, I would like to first thank all of our panelists very much for being able to join us. And we know that now is a very busy time for them. So thank you for spending your time with us this morning. And thank you to the participants who have joined for listening in. Hopefully you found something helpful. Reach out to those contacts that they gave if you have additional questions, or to our office as well, that we can help with additional financial questions. Some other banks to mention that we work with that weren't able to join this morning, Old Fort, Fifth Third, Huntington, and PNC are also other community banks that weren't able to join, but keep them in mind as well. Then I did want to mention a few of our upcoming webinars. Again, this is all at tsepcoronavirus.com at our website if you want to visit there. But we do have a webinar just for rural and agriculture businesses next Tuesday, the 21st. We have a weekly local business forum that's going to be starting next Wednesday at 10 a.m. And that will continue each week, just a discussion and place for businesses to talk about the challenges they're facing. And then we have mental health in your business coming up next Wednesday at 6 p.m. And if you're curious about any of the other topics we have had webinars on, anything from health and sanitation to creative solutions to your business to marketing and social media, please go to our website and you can find recordings of those webinars as well. So again, thank you all. And I did want to just say a large thank you to our banks again for just being caring and, you know, providing this service to our businesses. And again, to, you know, be patient with them. And they really are trying to do the best work they can for our local businesses. So thank you all, both panelists and participants. And we will go ahead and end the webinar now. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Audrey. Thanks, everybody. Thank you to the Chamber as well. And US Bank's the only other bank that
Yes.
was left out, so I wanted to include them as well. Thank you, Audrey, for a great job facilitating. Thank you to our panelists. And again, thank you to the Chamber.
Yes.
Okay. Bye.